Welcome, Global Heart Dancers. I'm your host for Forgiveness Ritual, Tangelina, the Aviatress, and I will be taking you through some thoughts and ideas around forgiveness. This will also pertain to spiritual hygiene, the energetics of your anatomy, and as well being able to let go and reclaim more of who you authentically are. So the way I like to start is with breath and dedication. So wherever you are at, you can set everything aside and find your seat, meaning find your sit bones nice and balanced, whether that's on a chair or on the floor. And in my lineage, we use a seed dedication, so your hands are cupped more like a flower bud, if you can see that. And this is symbolizing a seed. So this is actually putting all of your thought, will, and intention into the dedication. And that could be for if you are needing more support in your ability to relate from a grounded, centered place, or even just having more joy in your experience of life. So you can make your dedication however you like. And ultimately asking for our dedication to benefit ourselves, others, and the world. So put that in your seed and then open it up to the 45. Breathe it into the infinite heavens. Feel that come through your third eye and down into your chest. And then empty that out on the exhale. And keep your hands out like so. And let it just pour down into the earth, anything that's in the way. Breathe it out. Bring it back to center. Bow, acknowledging that we are here together and the gift that that is. And then abide with your hands in your lap, placing your awareness in your hands. Feel the sensation in your hands. Placing awareness in the front of yourself, the sides of yourself, behind yourself, above and below. And then you can allow yourself to abide. And I'll share some perspectives. So part of where my personal foundation in this forgiveness ritual and practice is from the Hawaiian lineage of the Kapunas of the Big Island. And a man named Kalani taught us, a group of us, the Ho'oponopono. And the Ho'oponopono, essentially, pono means to make right, or what is right. And ponopono is to make right right. It's a double emphasis. You see this in many cultures where there is a double emphasis that's repeated twice. And we also learn the directions of how we're oriented, because so much of what we are looking, to forgive, oftentimes, is dependent on our purpose, or perspective, excuse me. And purpose comes to play too. But perspective is dependent upon your view and orientation. So say I'm standing with my back to the ocean and the mountain is in front of me. And I want to give my friend directions, and you're standing across from me, and I tell you, you need to go down the street to the right. So in Hawaiian, this would be a cow. And then hema is left. But it's really what they're saying is right, not right. So you're either going the right direction or the not right direction. And if you're standing across from me and you hold up your right hand, we're not going to be a mirror image, right? I'm going to be holding up my right hand and saying, go this direction. And if you point your finger, you're going to be going the opposite direction. So it's important when we think about forgiveness, this isn't necessarily about one person being right and the other person being not right. It's about our perspective only having one point of direction. So in Ho'oponopono, it's basically saying, I value you and love you so much. I'm willing to take this time, which is really the only commodity that we truly have as humans on planet Earth. I'm willing to take this very, very valuable time and come and sit with you and share with you how much I love you, because I want to make right what doesn't feel right to me. And it's based on my perspective. I want to come to your side of the circle and see why it is that you see right being this direction and not right being this direction. And the only way that I can do that is if I come around to where you're standing and look at the ocean from the same direction that you are. Because for real, what we are in is a three-dimensional reality at the very, very least. And if we reduce it down to a two-dimensional reality, we've still got 360 degrees in a circle. So our point of orientation and view of direction at least has 360 degrees. So something to keep in mind. Now, I say this because it's so important to be willing to adjust your perspective. And when we enter into a place of forgiveness, this is more about making right inside of ourselves and helping us gain a perspective of compassion and understanding than actually it's not about justifying another person's behavior. It's not about allowing someone to come and walk all over you and give them full pass to do whatever they wish. It's showing you that you can actually adjust your perspective and allow more compassion and understanding. And when we do that, we can actually be valued on a similar level. We find common ground. And so, like, the classic, if you've heard of Ho'oponopono, you've heard a more westernized version of what Ho'oponopono is. Because if you go to Hawaii back to 242 AD, up until 1299 AD, the practice of Ho'oponopono is extremely different than what it is now. Of course, there's all the Tahitian influence and the Samoan and the Japanese, and then all the Westerners come, right? So to speak from a language that most of you are probably already familiar with, the formula for Ho'oponopono, according to the more recent Western perspective, is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And so let's break this down a bit more. It's I'm sorry to have an energy of resistance with you, or judgment. Most likely there's judgment. There could be frustration and anger. And so this is not necessarily hurting that person. It could. But mostly what it's doing is hurting yourself. So this is actually firstly asking or telling yourself, I'm sorry. Because this is doing more self-harm than anything. And if you know the saying, like, if you point your finger at someone, you've got three more fingers actually pointing back at yourself. same difference. So when you go to say I'm sorry, it's really I'm sorry to myself and I'm sorry to you, because it's actually prevented me from having a real authentic relationship with you, because I don't actually see you when there's all these filters and judgments and projections and so on that's clouding up the frame. Because now we can actually talk about who we are, which is far more mysterious and far more magnificent than most of us can even really imagine. So the more we drop our filters, the more we can actually be in relating from who we are and with who we are. So that is the most important piece. And that's why we say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for causing myself self-harm. I'm sorry for not being able to see you for who you are. And then I forgive you is I'm forgiving myself. I'm making the time to acknowledge I've caused self-injury, and now I'm forgiving myself. And what is another person except for like another aspect of yourself? And really, if we got into a lot of spiritual philosophical discussion, we would get into the fact that we're all expressions of a supreme, ultimate, universal radiance, all just having different experiences of itself, right? Anyhow, another discussion. So keeping that perspective, though, we can actually come into a place where we value, okay, this is the currency of the spirit. Value to the spirit is like what air is to the lungs. Okay, it's very important. So we bring value by sharing the time to acknowledge that we've had a resistance and a friction. We come in, we say, I'm sorry, and then I forgive you. Okay? This is the compassion piece. And it's compassion and understanding more than it's like, I'm letting you off the hook, or I'm letting myself off the hook. Although if perceiving it that way helps you, by all means. And then thank you, because that person has taken the time and you've taken the time to make right, right. And I love you, and we do this because we love each other. We love ourselves enough to get out of what in Hawaiian is called the uhili pili. It's this struggle with the ego, where the ego vanity comes up and it shows up and it's clinging and it's grasping and it's averting and averting and ignoring. I mean, I can claim this for myself. How many times do I ignore a situation because I don't want to face my ego vanity and all the vulnerability that comes with exposing my insecurity and my judgments and my projections? Because really, I have a vanity attachment around looking and being perceived a certain way. So it's good to flip that mirror around and be like, oh, okay, like, seriously, Tangelina, what is your issue, and how come you are more holier than thou? We are all human. We can have moments where we don't really like ourselves. But this is part of, now I'm going to get into the sensations. Sensations are really important. Your body is going to let you know when you have what would be called in a more modern term an energy leak. It's where part of your attention and awareness is actually stuck back in the past, in another circumstance, a project, a situation with a person that didn't go the way you wanted it to go, and your energy is actually moving out of your body and going back to that other timeline, and it's keeping your energy from being in its present now. So this is really, it can actually be very dangerous. This is part of what causes illness. Is if you have too much energy, right? You've got let's say your battery has 100% charge, but you've got 20% that's hanging out in this situation that was just so horrible or annoying or frustrating, and you had some attachment and investment in the situation going another way, then you're only operating in the now at 80%. And let's say you've got a few of these from your past, and maybe it's even as far back as your childhood. It could be another lifetime. And the most self-compassionate thing you can do for yourself is take back your stuff. And it's part of like what's considered soul retrieval, right? Soul retrieval is actually getting back all of your stuff. And when you have all of your stuff, then you can actually be powering at 100%. And this is where we move into actual radical manifestation, radical ability of creativity. But we can't do that if we've got 20% charge hanging out in this old business and that old thing because we didn't get a pony for our birthday when we turned 5 and we're still hung up on that. And it's not that you don't deserve a pony, it's just that your ego is so attached to having that, and it's probably a validation thing too. If I were worth, or if I were valuable enough, I would have this thing. My mom and dad would have showed up for my theater recital, da-da-da-da-da. And so if we can go back to those timelines, and, we may not be able to actually do a forgiveness ritual with the person. Maybe they're no longer in their body, maybe they're no longer in your life, but you can summon the situation. Bring it to your present moment, right? This is not a time for ignoring. This is when we actually pay attention to where is it that your energy is going that's not in the present moment. So reclaim it. And actually, since this is a live stream event, we can do a little exercise here. So bring to mind, and while I've been talking, there may have been something that is like this knot of tension that you're already aware of. So we're gonna do this thing, okay? It's called a body scan. You're gonna do a scan from the top of your head all the way down, your shoulders, the front of your body. Do it with the breath. Let's feel your breath soften and full. In the nose, and then don't try to correct anything. This is about taking a read. All right, body. Can you feel where the greatest amount of tension in your body is? Okay, it could be your back, your stomach, your heart. Oh, my heart. Throat. And then once you get that, you can ask your body part, what does this energy have to do with? Where is this tension coming from? And this isn't necessarily to have a dialogue with your body and tell the story about how, oh, poor me and woe is me and this thing. This is about just getting some clarity of where your energy is draining off in the past. And then see how much of it in the present moment you can fully feel. And you can ask yourself a question like, what if this were never to change? What if this got worse? Let yourself feel it. This allows you to burn a spiritual fire in your body. And you bring your present awareness and your present state of compassion into the moment of the past where the tension is stuck. And you can ask yourself, what is needed? What do you need to tell me? You could have one word. Maybe it's, I'm scared. I had that earlier today. I just had a really bad accident. And I banged myself up. And more than the injury, it was the impact of the trauma that was so scary. And if you need to cry in this moment, you can cry. This is where we stop ignoring and we stop the grasping and the clinging and the fighting, and we actually just let the energy be and express itself. Okay? And as that expresses itself, you can give it a color. Maybe it has a color. Maybe it has a name. So like for me today, my word was, I'm scared. And it had a color. It even had like a movement. Maybe your word has a movement. Maybe it has a sound. So if you're feeling brave, and if embarrassment doesn't stop you, nothing will. And nobody's looking at you, so if you close your eyes, they can't see you. So take a chance, maybe a risk on your own behalf. You can make a sound, and it's the sound of the word. All right, so this is giving it its full sense of expression and its full release. Ah! I'm scared. Ah! Let that flow through you. Notice if anything's changed. When we give our attention space to express ourselves, you might notice that the tension no longer feels so tight. And then it might relax. And then in this moment you can ask yourself, what's needed? What is needed? That might be another color. That might be another sound. It could even have a shape. That came to me today. Like realized that part of the medicine that I needed for the release of my trauma and the care of my body was to actually see a shape going into my body, and the shape is actually helping reorganize the energy. Geometry is everywhere. So in your own time, and if this is a tool that you want to keep using, you can give yourself the space to feel everything. See it in all the detail that you can. And then give yourself what's needed. See the color infusing into your body, or maybe it's around your body. Maybe it's your energetic field that actually needs the nourishment of color, the nourishment of shape or sound. This physical body is actually only 0.001% of the space that we actually take up. So energetically, we're quite huge. Imagine how powerful you can be when you're at 100%. So the other thing I want to discuss with you is as you're going in to do these, quote unquote forgiveness rituals, is more like self-acceptance and reclamation of the soul. Because anytime we have unresolved energy with someone or something, we have left a part of our energy behind. Is that when we go into to actually work with this, and if any of you are Christian, you can remember the Lord's Prayer says, "Give us this day our daily bread." Our daily bread is the situations that life gives us. Now, whether that's friendly or unfriendly, whether that's something that fits into our category of, ooh, I like that, that's pleasurable, or oh, that's rather smelly and boogery. See how you can adjust yourself to see how that's your daily bread. This is the stuff of life you get to chew on. This is what life has actually given you to open the gift of your life. Ultimately, intrinsically, we are radiant rainbow essence beings. We have acquired through our parents and our environment and the cultural trance being the dominant, what do you call it, consensus reality type stuff. And that's basically a bunch of algae and crap and mud that has all been thrown on top of the diamond. You're a diamond being. You're a diamond essence being. And the more that we step into our more intrinsic selves through this work of acceptance and forgiveness, more of our essence being shines through. It's not of acquiring something that you don't have. This is something that you already have. So when we sit down to do these practices, this is a huge part of the outcome. The outcome is very much dependent on the motivation that you have going into it. So if you notice, when you're in your pain body and you're going in to do your spiritual work because I don't want to feel uncomfortable anymore, if that's your motivation, the sort of benefit that you get from it is going to also mirror that. And so reflect on your motivation. This is how you become deliberate in your spiritual practice. And the fruits of your practice then are doubled when you can have a motivation coming from, actually, I know the way that I'm seeing myself and I'm feeling in myself not being 100% it's actually affecting others. It's affecting the way I relate to other people. It's affecting the way that I take care of myself. And I'm going to do something about it because I value how I relate to people and how I take care of myself. So this can be a huge adjustment in value. So wherever you are at in your practice of forgiveness, please forgive me if I might expose too much. But I want to be able to relate to a lot of different places of where people could be. So if you're beginning, then just take whatever it is that I'm sharing with you that feels like it's got great value to you. If there's things that I'm saying that are either Greek to you, or they don't seem important, they don't strike truth or value in you, then maybe you come back to it later, maybe you just don't hear them. My true desire in life, and this could be probably my greatest motivation for sharing anything with you today in this moment, is that watching people regain more of who they are, gathering their fragmented pieces back into who they are, really ignites people in the true gift of their lives. They become more inspired about creative things they want to do, or maybe it's an athletic endeavor, or they want to collaborate, or music, or beautiful paintings, and giant puppets, and flash dances and musical productions. All of those things come when people are more in themselves. And the transmission they can give from that place is so much more powerful. So my selfish motivation is to see people open the gift of their lives. It makes me happy beyond expression. So that's something that you can contemplate when you sit down. If you're sitting down with a friend, a lover, a co-worker, someone in your community or your family, to do this kind of forgiveness ritual. And what I just gave you is something that can prep you for being able to come and actually sit across from another person and see how their right is your not right, and invite them to see how your right is their not right. So when you do go to sit down with a person, if you want something that is more of this Ho'oponopono formula, sort out your motivation, first of all. What's motivating you to sit with this person? What kind of value are you generating? This isn't just about what you're getting out of it. This is about what the other person might get out of it, and how other people in your community and your close relating will benefit from this. And that's not to be completely invested in this powerful ooh-ah thing to happen. It's more about just sorting out your motivation. Because when we can come from a clear and centered place, we can actually approach the more difficult things that we have to say from a centered place and a clear place that allows for resolve and resolution to happen. We can actually be a bit open to what it is that their perspective is. You know, and their behavior is like, you could be completely lost as to what their behavior was. It was like, how come you let your dog poop on the front porch and you didn't move it? Okay, this could figuratively, theoretically be the gripe, right? And you came home and it was dark and you stepped in the poo, and then you've got poo on your shoe and you're angry at your housemate, and it causes all this strife. Well, what if you sat down with this person and you found out that this person actually, their favorite grandma just died, and they were beside themselves with grief, and they had no idea what was going on with their dog. Right? This might create more of a field of understanding, but you're not going to be able to receive that if you're just coming forward with your own perspective of what's happened, your own sense of injustice, your own sense of inconvenience, annoyance, frustration, all that. So when you sit down with your friend, you can say, and you can use your nonviolent skill set, and if that's not familiar to you, it goes something like this. And this is a way of taking ownership for what feelings and emotions are yours. Okay? So you state an observation, you state your response, or, you know, if you want to be really honest, your reaction to the observation, and then a request for the behavior that you desire, and then you can even ask for an explanation and a place of understanding. Please help me understand this. So the way you could approach this is, when I came home last night in the dark and stepped in your dog's poo on the porch, I felt angry and annoyed. And I'm requesting that you watch after your dog, and if there's ever a mess, that you clean it up, especially if it's in the public common space. And can you please help me understand why it was that this happened? Right? So that leaves space for them to then let you know what it was that happened, and then there's the possibility for understanding and compassion to come in. And now you won't be able to get that compassion and understanding unless you are willing to make space and actually ask. So that's really important. So say it's a more personal, vulnerable type of matter, and you come to your friend and you let them know that their actions were disturbing for you, and that you were seeking a place of forgiveness with them. You can say, look, I'm really sorry. I was super duper angry with you about your dog pooping on the porch, and I forgive you. And I forgive me. I forgive me for being really angry and frustrated with you. And it made me not want to talk to you. It made me not want to be able to look at you, and I had now all this judgment clouding everything that you do and everything that you say to me. So I'm sorry for that, and I'm asking for your forgiveness for that, and I'm forgiving myself for that. And being in the process to an extent where you can actually get to a place of gratitude. And that's where you can say, now, thank you. And ultimately, I love you. And this is something that brings you closer to this person. There's almost, I would probably bet 95% of the time, people feel more close and more intimate when they've been able to expose their judgments and projections and sense of maybe injustice or whatever, and come around to a place of understanding and compassion and forgiveness, than if they were to say nothing at all. So you just ignored it, you stashed it away, oh, it's not worth the hassle, and I'm just going to sweep this under the rug and try to be okay with this person. How well has that ever worked out for anyone? Built up resentment, usually. So we are in this awesome place in the time of human history where we have ancient techniques and we have modern technologies where we can actually step up our level of relating and our ability to be even more compassionate, radically compassionate. And so I really, my deepest prayer and intention for this time is for us, for me to be able to share with you a skill, a tool, a method that you can come back to. And I don't know, I really appreciate all of you. I wish I could climb through the screen and see who I'm actually speaking to, and just share my deep, deep gratitude for each and every one of you for showing up and being willing to look at these more tender, vulnerable places of ourselves, the places that make us human. And I would say, given the condition of the world, making a commitment to be more human and more in our authentic, organic human is a pretty radical stance to take. And I would challenge anyone and say, what else are we here for, really? So I'm going to close this session with what's what's the other side of the dedication is to benefit others. So find your breath again, and here you can put your hands together in a classical prayer pose, and think of all the people who are in your lives that you want to benefit, and then pick just one who makes you feel alive and loved, and feel the sensations and organize the sensations in your body as if they are with you right now. Sense their presence. And then if you've benefited somehow from our time together, you can imagine that benefit, or maybe there was a realization, maybe a point of clarity, and you can imagine that radiating from you and touching the other person. And as that touches the other person, they're connected to someone, and it ripples out to them, and it ripples all out, farther and farther, still out to others and more, until it touches everyone in the world. All right. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank yourselves, and have an epic next moment. Let's see how much of you can be present in the next moment. I wonder what that might feel like. That might feel ecstatic. All right. Till next time, much love. Mahalo, nui loa, aloha ke akua.